He steps into the box the same way he always does, heart beating a little faster than any warm-up could justify. Wallas has been training here for months, yet every time he spots Luna moving through the space, correcting a posture, sharing a quick smile with an athlete, he feels something shift inside him. She has this calm warmth that fills the gym like sunlight after a storm, and even though he tries to play it cool, his eyes inevitably search for her approval. It's subtle at first, almost harmless, like the beginning of a habit he doesn't see forming, but deep down, the seeds of something more are already taking root, shaped by admiration and a quiet longing he doesn't quite understand. The gym itself feels like a world apart, a place where sweat, hope, and frustration mix in the air, like the metallic scent of barbells. Wallas has always loved that energy, yet lately it's Luna's presence that anchors him. She moves with a certainty built over years of experience, guiding each athlete with a soft firmness that makes everyone feel seen. And Wallas, who grew up craving that kind of attention, finds himself hanging on every word she says. It's not just coaching to him, it's connection, even if she doesn't know it, especially because she doesn't know it. And then there's Brutus, the powerhouse, the guy everyone watches when the weights get heavy. Luna often stands near him, offering cues, steadying his wrists, adjusting his stance with a professional ease that Wallas can't help noticing. Brutus is everything Wallas isn't: strong, confident, unbothered. And every time Luna focuses on him, something inside Wallas tugs a little tighter. He tells himself it's nothing, just routine coaching. But that tiny pull is growing, stretching across moments he can't ignore. And it's beginning to shape the way he sees everything around him, even if he's not ready to face what's coming next. Wallas tries to shake off the feeling, diving into his warm-up as if he can outrun the thoughts swirling in his head. But every time Luna calls out a cue, even one meant for the whole class, he feels it land on him like a personal spotlight. It's embarrassing how much it affects him. He pretends it doesn't, of course, stretching his shoulders, rolling his wrists, acting like any other athlete. Yet inside, there's this quiet flutter that reminds him of when he was younger, craving a word of encouragement from anyone who believed in him. Luna doesn't know it, but her voice reaches corners of him that haven't seen light in years. He grew up learning to hide his emotions, to be the kind of person who never asks for too much, who blends in so he won't be disappointed. And maybe that's why Luna's attention feels so powerful to him. She sees people, really sees them, not just their performance but their struggles, their fears, the way they grip the bar like they're gripping their own battles. When she speaks to Wallas, even briefly, it's like someone is finally acknowledging the effort he never feels good enough to show. That small recognition becomes something he starts depending on more than he'd like to admit. Meanwhile, Brutus finishes a heavy lift, dropping the bar with a thunderous clang that shakes the whole room. Luna beams at him with that proud, focused smile she gives only when someone nails a technical cue. Wallas watches from a distance, trying to swallow the sudden tightness in his chest. He tells himself it's silly. She's just being a coach, doing her job. But logic doesn't soften the sting. It's the way she leans in, the way she celebrates his progress, the way Wallas wishes she'd look at him. And little by little, that wish starts shaping a longing he's not ready to admit will soon take him somewhere he never intended to go. As the class moves into its main workout, Wallas throws himself into every rep with a determination that borders on desperation. He wants to stand out, to earn Luna's gaze the way Brutus does so effortlessly. Each pull of the bar feels like he's trying to drag his insecurities off the ground along with the weight. His breath grows sharp, his movements slightly rushed, but he keeps pushing, hoping she'll notice the effort written in the tension of his shoulders. There's a quiet ache under his ribs, one that feels strangely familiar, like the echo of wanting something he's afraid to reach for. And still, he keeps going, as if intensity alone could win the attention he craves. Luna finally walks by him, offering a gentle correction. Nothing big, just a slight shift in stance. But the moment hits him harder than any barbell. Her hand barely grazes his elbow, yet his pulse jumps like it's been shocked back to life. She smiles, warm and encouraging, the same smile she gives everyone. But Wallas feels it sink deeper than it should. For a second, he imagines it means something more, something personal, something that belongs to him. But when she turns to help another athlete, the warmth fades, leaving him wrestling with a hollow flicker of disappointment he tries to hide. By the end of class, the gym hums with post-workout chatter, weights clinking as people tidy up, and Luna moves around thanking everyone for their effort. Wallas watches her from the edge of the group, soaking in every detail. The way she laughs softly at someone's joke, the way she tucks a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the way she makes the whole space feel lighter. And somewhere inside him, admiration shifts into something stronger, more consuming. It scares him a little, how fast it's growing, how much he wants her attention. And even though he doesn't realize it yet, these feelings are quietly guiding him toward a path that will soon test the limits of his judgment, pulling him into the next chapter of his story. The next morning, Wallas walks into the box carrying a strange heaviness he can't quite shake. He spots Luna almost immediately, but this time, instead of that warm spark he usually feels, something else flickers inside him. Brutus is already there, lifting early, and Luna is right beside him, guiding his grip with focused attention. Wallas pauses mid-step, feeling that old tug in his chest tighten into something sharper. It's a mix of ache and irritation, swirling together like a storm he didn't see coming. And for the first time, admiration feels uncomfortably close to jealousy. He tells himself it's nothing, just another morning. Yet every glance Luna gives Brutus lands like a silent jab he's powerless to block. Brutus laughs at something she says, and the sound grates on Wallas in a way that startles him. He never used to care who Luna coached or how much time she spent with anyone, but now, every small interaction feels amplified, as if someone turned the emotional volume up too high. He tries to stretch, tries to breathe, but the jealousy winds itself around him, squeezing tighter with every passing minute. As the class fills up, Wallas keeps stealing glances at them, unable to stop himself. Luna is completely absorbed in helping Brutus refine his lift, her voice calm, her hands steady, her focus unbroken, and Wallas's mind starts spinning its own stories that twist her professionalism into favoritism, her kindness into affection meant for someone else. His insecurity whispers in his ear, muddying his thoughts, painting illusions that feel painfully real. And though he doesn't want to admit it, something inside him begins searching for a way to reclaim the attention he fears he's losing, nudging him toward choices he never imagined he'd consider. Wallas moves through the warm-up feeling disconnected from himself, as if his body is on autopilot while his mind spirals somewhere else entirely. Each time Luna calls out a cue to the group, he wonders if she even sees him anymore. That doubt hits harder than he expects, stirring memories of times in his past when he felt invisible, overlooked, or simply not enough. Those old wounds flare quietly beneath the surface, blending with his current frustration, and the more he tries to push the feelings down, the stronger they rise, like waves refusing to settle. When Luna walks over to adjust Brutus's stance once more, Wallas feels a pinch of anger spark inside him, a feeling he's not used to directing at her. It startles him, makes him swallow hard, makes him glance away quickly so no one sees the shift in his expression. He hates the thought of resenting her, yet jealousy has a way of twisting affection into something darker. It whispers that he's losing her attention, that he never really had it, that Brutus might hold a place he doesn't. And for a moment, that whisper feels painfully believable, tightening the knot in his chest. He tries to refocus, gripping the barbell, grounding himself in the familiar feel of cold metal against his palms. But even the rhythmic motion of lifting can't drown out the thoughts circling his mind. Every clang of Brutus's bar echoes like a reminder of the distance growing between Wallas and the attention he craves. He knows it's irrational, knows Luna treats everyone with the same steady kindness, yet emotion doesn't play by the rules of logic. It only grows, slowly feeding on old insecurities and new fears, guiding him toward an impulse he never expected to face as the tension between them deepens. As the workout intensifies, Wallas can't shake the feeling that Luna is drifting further from him with every passing minute. She's making her rounds, encouraging athletes, correcting form, but her moments with Brutus stand out in his mind like bold strokes of paint on an otherwise pale canvas. Wallas watches her clap Brutus on the shoulder after a strong lift, and something inside him twists, not sharply, but deeply, like a dull ache from an old bruise. He forces his eyes away, pretending to focus on his own reps, yet the truth is, his emotions are pulling him in every direction, clouding his judgment in ways he's never felt before. He pauses to sip water, hoping the small break will help him breathe, but instead, his mind drifts to memories he rarely revisits. He remembers the times he felt pushed aside, forgotten in the background, always yearning for someone to choose him first. Those old shadows mix with the jealousy building now, feeding each other in a way that feels both familiar and frightening. It's not really about Brutus. Deep down, Wallas knows that. It's about the fear of being replaceable, unnoticed, unimportant. And in Luna's absence, real or imagined, that fear finds fertile ground to grow. By the time the class wraps up, Wallas is caught in an emotional whirlwind he doesn't quite understand. He wants to talk to Luna, to stand close enough to feel seen again, but he's ashamed of the bitterness swirling inside him. So he stays back, wiping down his barbell slowly, hiding behind routine. Watching her laugh with Brutus one more time only fuels the knot tightening in his chest, pushing him toward a question he can't ignore. What would it take to bring her attention back to him? It's a dangerous thought, subtle yet persistent, quietly leading him toward a choice that will soon blur the line between longing and recklessness as the next chapter unfolds. The next day, Wallas arrives early, long before the class begins. The gym is quiet, filled only with the faint hum of fans and the lingering smell of chalk and rubber flooring. He walks past the racks slowly, almost cautiously, as if the silence might expose the turmoil he's been carrying. His jealousy from the day before hasn't faded. If anything, it's settled deeper, tugging at his thoughts in restless waves. And in that vulnerable space between insecurity and longing, a reckless idea begins to form, one he knows he shouldn't entertain, yet can't quite push away. He tells himself it's harmless, just a small shift in the routine, nothing more. He pauses in front of the storage area where the specialized lifting equipment is kept, the same gear Luna always uses during Brutus's sessions. The sight of it sends a ripple through him, a mix of guilt and temptation colliding in his chest. He remembers Luna's encouraging voice, the warmth in her smile, the way she makes everyone feel supported. Then he remembers Brutus beside her, receiving that same focus in a way that feels too close, too personal. Wallas's heart thuds heavily as the thought settles. Maybe if the equipment isn't there, the session can't happen. Maybe Luna's attention will return to where he desperately wants it. His hand hovers over the handles of the storage bin, trembling slightly. He knows this crosses a boundary, knows it violates the trust he claims to cherish. But emotions, especially the tangled mix inside him, don't always leave room for reason. He thinks of all the times he felt invisible growing up, all the moments he wished someone would choose him. The ache of those memories blends with the sharp jealousy that's taken root, pushing him forward. And with a breath he barely feels himself take, Wallas makes a choice he can't undo, stepping into a moment that will change everything that follows. Wallas slips the equipment into a seldom-used corner behind an old stack of plyo boxes, a spot no one checks unless they're rearranging the entire gym. The moment the gear leaves its rightful place, a jolt of panic flashes through him. His breath catches, and he glances over his shoulder even though the gym is still empty. It feels like he's tampering with something sacred, like moving a piece of Luna's world without permission. The weight of what he's done presses against his chest, but mixed with it is a strange flicker of relief. Quiet, unsettling, but undeniably present. He whispers to himself that it's temporary, that no one will get hurt, trying to steady the guilt swirling under his ribs. When the class begins, Wallas feels himself unraveling as he watches Luna walk over to the storage area. Unaware of what's missing, she pauses, her brows drawing together in a soft, questioning frown. Brutus stands beside her, stretching casually, waiting. Wallas's heart thunders as she opens bins, checks shelves, then straightens slowly with a puzzled breath. She calls for assistance from another coach, her tone calm but laced with confusion. Wallas can feel the guilt crawling up his spine, but he stays silent, rooted in place by the fear of being exposed. Every second stretches painfully long, like time is holding him accountable even if no one else can. Luna remains composed, her voice gentle as she reassures the class there will be a brief delay. She adapts quickly, shifting the warm-up while the other coach searches for the missing gear. Wallas watches her closely, the way she maintains her calm, the way she shields her athletes from unnecessary stress, and his chest tightens with regret. This isn't the reaction he imagined. He thought the disruption would be small, harmless, maybe even unnoticed. Instead, he sees the weight it places on her shoulders, the quiet strain behind her professionalism. And in that moment, relief and guilt collide so fiercely inside him that he's left unsure whether he wants the equipment to stay hidden or to be found immediately. As the minutes drag on, Wallas feels the guilt settling deeper, like a stone dropped into the pit of his stomach. Luna moves through the class with steady patience, but he catches the subtle signs of strain, the way she presses her lips together, the thoughtful pause in her steps, the gentle sigh she tries to hide. She's trying to protect everyone from the ripple of chaos he created, and that realization stings sharper than he expected. He lifts a barbell mechanically, pretending to warm up, but his hands tremble against the steel. For the first time, he wonders if his need for her attention has pushed him into territory he never meant to cross. Brutus, unaware of the truth behind the disruption, shrugs it off with a confident grin, joking with nearby athletes. But Wallas sees Luna's glance linger on the empty space where the equipment should be, and the look in her eyes lodges deep in his chest. It's not anger, just concern, mixed with a quiet calculation as she pieces together what might have happened. Wallas swallows hard, heart pounding, terrified that she'll somehow sense his involvement. He wipes sweat from his brow even though the workout hasn't started, hoping no one notices the way his nerves betray him. He wants to undo what he's done, to put everything back before she sees the cracks in him that he's always tried to keep hidden. When the class finally transitions into a modified version of the training, Luna's calm composure returns. But now, Wallas sees it differently. He sees the weight she carries to keep everyone safe, the responsibility she shoulders with grace, the quiet strength he's admired since the beginning, and the truth of his actions hits him with sudden force. He didn't just hide equipment, he disrupted her world, the one place that gives him purpose and structure. Guilt swirls with a faint, misguided relief, creating a storm he can't escape. And somewhere inside that storm, a small, frightened thought forms. What if Luna begins to suspect the real reason behind all this? That question lingers, pulling him toward the inevitable confrontation waiting in the next chapter. Luna waits until the last athlete leaves before she turns to Wallas with a calmness that feels heavier than anger. The gym is quiet now, lit only by the cool glow of overhead lights and the soft echo of weights being racked in the distance. Wallas feels his pulse thundering in his ears as she approaches, not fast, not aggressive, just steady, intentional. She asks if they can talk for a moment, her voice gentle but unmistakably firm, and in that instant, every emotion he's been burying presses up against his ribs, threatening to spill over. He nods, unable to trust his voice, knowing this moment was inevitable from the second he made his choice. She leads him toward a quieter corner of the box, where the air feels thick with unspoken questions. Luna crosses her arms softly, not defensive, just grounding herself, and looks at him with a mixture of concern and careful observation. She explains what happened during class, the missing equipment, the delay, the confusion. Her tone doesn't accuse, but it invites honesty in a way that feels almost disarming. Wallas stares at the floor, the truth burning behind his lips. His mind races through memories, her kindness, his jealousy, the moment he hid the gear, and every emotion converges into a knot he can no longer untangle. When he finally meets her eyes, he feels like she can see straight through him. Wallas's voice cracks as he begins to speak, the first words tangled in guilt. He admits what he did, how he hid the equipment, how he didn't think through the consequences, how jealousy warped his judgment. He confesses not just the action, but the feelings beneath it, the admiration that turned into longing, the idea that maybe disrupting Brutus's training would bring her attention back to him. Luna listens quietly, not interrupting, her expression soft but serious. And as he speaks, he feels exposed in a way that's both terrifying and strangely freeing, like he's finally letting go of something he's carried for too long. Yet even as the truth settles between them, he senses there's more she needs to say, something that will guide the moment into the next unfolding chapter. Luna takes a slow breath before responding, giving weight to the silence between them. She isn't cold, but there's a seriousness in her eyes that Wallas has never seen before, an anchor of responsibility she can't set aside. She tells him she appreciates his honesty, that admitting something so difficult takes courage, but she also explains that what happened can't be brushed off as a simple mistake. Her voice stays steady, compassionate, yet undeniably firm. She speaks like someone who has guided countless athletes, someone who understands emotions deeply, but refuses to ignore the reality in front of her. And Wallas feels each word settle into him like a truth he should have known all along. She explains boundaries, not as walls to punish him, but as lines that keep the gym safe, respectful, and functional for everyone. Luna describes how every piece of equipment matters, how one delay can ripple into the whole class, how trust between coach and athlete is essential. She tells him she cares about his progress, about his growth, but she cannot allow emotions, even painful ones, to interfere with the safety of the environment. As she speaks, Wallas feels a sting of shame, not because she scolds him, but because she sees him clearly, his strengths, his struggles, and the choices that led him here. It's a painful honesty, the kind that strips away excuses. Then, with gentle resolve, Luna says she may need to report the incident to gym management, not to punish him, but to ensure accountability and prevent anything similar from happening again. Wallas's heart sinks, but Luna reaches out, placing a soft hand over her arm as if to steady both of them. She assures him this isn't about labeling him or pushing him away. It's about keeping the space safe and helping him understand the weight of his actions. Her empathy is unmistakable, even as she stands firm, and in that mix of compassion and responsibility, Wallas realizes this moment will shape far more than just his standing in the gym. It will shape the way he sees himself moving forward. Wallas feels his chest tighten as Luna's words settle, but something unexpected begins to stir beneath the shame. Relief, not relief from avoiding consequences, but relief from finally being seen honestly, without the fog of jealousy or the weight of pretending everything was fine. He looks at Luna, noticing the gentleness in her expression, the sincerity behind her firm tone. It isn't rejection, it isn't cruelty, it's guidance, the kind he's craved for years without realizing it. His voice is soft when he agrees with her, acknowledging the seriousness of what he did and the pain that fueled it. For the first time in days, his emotions feel grounded rather than spiraling. Luna nods, her posture relaxing just a little, as if his willingness to take responsibility eases something inside her too. She tells him she's not angry. Disappointed, yes, but also hopeful. She explains that this moment doesn't define him. What will matter is how he grows from it. Her words strike him deeply, touching old wounds he spent years keeping hidden. He remembers being a child, longing for someone to guide him instead of giving up on him. That memory flickers behind his eyes, mixing with the present moment in a way that makes his throat tighten. Luna's steadiness feels like something he's needed far longer than he ever admitted. As the conversation draws to a close, Luna reassures him that she still believes in his potential, both as an athlete and as a person. She reminds him that admiration isn't wrong, but it needs to be healthy, grounded in reality rather than fear or longing. Wallas nods again, absorbing every word, knowing this moment will echo long after the gym lights shut off. And as they step away from the quiet corner of the box, Wallas feels a shift inside him, not a conclusion, but the beginning of something harder and much more important. A path toward growth, accountability, and the uncomfortable lessons waiting in the next chapter of his story. The next morning, Wallas walks into the gym with a weight heavier than any bar he's ever lifted. Yet, there's a strange clarity in his steps. The box feels different now, not because of Luna, not because of Brutus, but because of the truth he finally faced. He pauses near the entrance, taking in the familiar sounds of plates clinking, jump ropes snapping lightly against the floor, and soft conversations between athletes. For the first time in days, he isn't chasing Luna's attention or watching Brutus with envy. Instead, he's turning inward, confronting the uncomfortable truth of how much his emotions had taken control. It's humbling, even painful, but it feels like a necessary first step. Before class begins, Wallas takes a deep breath and approaches Luna and the small group gathered nearby. His voice trembles slightly as he apologizes, not just to her, but to the class as well. He explains that he made a mistake, that his actions disrupted their training and betrayed the trust they place in each other. The room is quiet but not cold. The athletes listen, some surprised, some concerned, yet none hostile. Luna stands beside him, not shielding him nor abandoning him, just present. And Wallas feels the weight of accountability settle more firmly on his shoulders, grounding him rather than crushing him. When he finishes, a few athletes nod in understanding, and others give him gentle, encouraging looks. Brutus even claps him lightly on the back, a gesture so warm and unexpected that Wallas feels his throat tighten. The acceptance isn't instant or complete, but it's real, and it gives him something he didn't expect: hope. Luna follows up with a brief reminder to everyone about respect and communication, her voice calm and supportive. Wallas feels grateful, not for escaping consequences, but for being given the chance to rebuild. And as he steps back to prepare for the warm-up, he senses that the hardest part of this journey is behind him, even though growth still stretches ahead, quietly waiting in the next moments of his story. As the class begins, Wallas feels a subtle shift in the air. Not dramatic, not obvious, but meaningful. He moves through the warm-up with a steadier focus, grounded in something more honest than before. The jealousy that once pulsed in his chest is replaced by a quiet determination to rebuild trust, step by step. Luna walks around the room, offering cues as always, and when she reaches Wallas, her tone is warm but professional, perfectly balanced. He senses the difference. She's giving him space, yet still supporting him, and for the first time, that boundary feels comforting rather than painful. During the workout, memories flicker across his mind, moments that once fueled his insecurity. He remembers watching Luna coach Brutus and feeling invisible, unwanted. But now, with clarity settling in, he realizes those emotions had far more to do with old wounds than with anything happening in front of him. He thinks of the times he felt overshadowed growing up, the fear of not being chosen, the ache of feeling replaceable. And as he lifts, pushes, and moves through each rep, he feels those old shadows loosening their grip. It's not a dramatic transformation, but a steady unraveling of emotions he's carried for far too long. Luna catches his eye at one point, offering an encouraging nod, the same kind she gives everyone. And this time, Wallas receives it without twisting it into something else, without searching for deeper meaning. It's just support. It's just coaching. And strangely, that realization brings him a sense of peace he didn't expect. He wipes sweat from his brow, breath steady, and senses himself growing, not as someone trying to win attention, but as an athlete working to improve for his own sake. And in that small but meaningful shift, a new chapter in his own development quietly begins to unfold, guiding him toward the final steps of this journey. When the workout ends, Wallas leans against the rig, chest rising and falling in heavy breaths, not just from exertion but from the emotional release woven through every rep. Luna gathers the class for final notes, her voice clear and steady as she praises everyone's effort. When she mentions Wallas specifically, commending not just his performance but his accountability earlier, he feels heat rise in his chest, but this time it's pride, not embarrassment. The group gives a few light claps, friendly and sincere, and for the first time in a long time, Wallas doesn't shrink away from being seen. As people begin putting away equipment, Brutus approaches him with an easy grin. He jokes that Wallas pushed harder today than he had all month, adding that he respects someone who owns up when they slip. The comment disarms Wallas, dissolving the remnants of tension he once felt toward the man. They share a brief, genuine laugh, an interaction that would have felt impossible only days before. When Luna passes by, she gives them both an approving glance, as if silently acknowledging the growth happening right in front of her. And Wallas feels something inside him settle into place. Before leaving, Wallas takes a moment to stand alone at the center of the box, looking around at the space that witnessed his worst impulses and now his quiet transformation. He knows there's still more work to do, emotional, personal, internal, but he's not afraid of it anymore. Instead, he feels grounded, almost hopeful, like he's finally walking toward a version of himself he can be proud of. Luna catches his eye from across the room, offering a small, encouraging smile before turning back to coach the next class, and Wallas steps out of the gym with a steady breath, carrying with him not just strength but the wisdom forged through the hardest lessons of this chapter.